You have the right to the action, but you do not have the right to the fruits of that action. So you take the action for the sake of the action, and that's it. It really is about the journey. There is no destination. Don't put time limits on your goals. Feel into your heart. Make sure that they are still aligned with the person you are in this ever-changing world, because your goals can change, and by hanging on too tightly to one may make you shift away from one that's even bigger and greater and something that you could miss in this life. Hey everyone, welcome back. Episode 68 of the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. We've got our August installment of Ask the YTs, and I'm here with the Beej and Clark. And we've got a few questions, and we've got some things to catch up on because it's been a while since we've done, I think it's been since June since we've done an Ask the YTs, because July was our Ironman Santa Rosa Square Table Smackdown, which if you didn't listen to it, we're getting really great feedback on that one. Lots of laughs, and we're happy to hear that people are sharing in those laughs with us. It was such a great group. We had 6 people on 2 mics in a seedy hotel room in Santa Rosa, California, and it was so much fun. And not only did we have 6 people on 2 mics, but we had 6 athletes, all of like such different levels and experience, from, you know, elite level with Troy, to Susanna, who kicked butt in her first Ironman, to Coach Beej, who's one of the best in his age group in the world, and to me, who's, well, we'll get into what's going on with me, Billy, Kona qualifier, and Elizabeth, who's representing triathlon in Troy's hometown in Mexico. So it was a really awesome episode. I guess that was about 3 episodes ago now, but thanks so much, you guys, for the support, checking in each week, tuning in to the show to support what we're trying to do here, which is, it's sharing stories, but the Yogi Triathlete mission is to create a better world. Like, this is what we want to do. We want to help create a better world, and how do we do that? How do we do that, BJ?
Through yoga. Through plant-based nutrition.
But how through yoga?
Through the practice of yoga, through our breathing, through calming down, through putting yourself in a position where you're forced to focus on your breath and not on the pose.
And we do that through what?
Through present moment awareness and breath.
Nice. And how else do we create a better world? What? We're a couple minutes in. Right. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. So we also do plant-based nutrition.
And how does that help create a better world? That's such an easy one.
A better world for the planet, for ourselves, our bodies, and for the animals. Mm-hmm. All 3. It's a win-win-win. And just today on my bike ride, talking with people about, one person was plant-based and one person had tried it, and it's just gaining momentum. Like, it's not something that isn't unheard of anymore, and people are exploring possibilities of how it will affect them.
It's so huge.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we got yoga and mindfulness. We've got plant-based nutrition, and we've got the podcast sharing stories to help people understand that you never have to be stuck, that those deep, amazing, burning desires in your heart are there for a reason, that you're here to share those gifts. And so that's why we want to share the stories of people who have gotten on the other side of fear and doubt, and they're living their purpose. And then how else do we do it? Through our athletes.
Yeah, through triathlon and running.
Yeah.
Getting out there and making that body move. Mm-hmm. Challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally.
Yeah, and realizing things in your life that maybe you never dreamed of possible for you. So all of those things together, I mean, what it really boils down to is Yogi Triathlete's about bringing more consciousness in the world. And if we have more conscious people in the world, we're going to have a better world, because what's happening is that the unconsciousness in our world, the deep unconsciousness and the ordinary unconsciousness, which is what Eckhart Tolle refers to, 2 types of unconsciousness. The ordinary unconsciousness is just our addiction to our belief systems and our roles and who we are and who we think we are and the job that we have. All of that is it's our role that we play in this world, but it's also a big limiter. And if we're too hard lined we're going to continue to live in unconsciousness. So it's getting out of these belief systems and into the experience of now. And that's where mindfulness, no matter if you're training for an Ironman or you're having your first kale salad or you're taking your first Warrior One, it's about aligning your awareness with the activity at hand. And that is consciousness. And then, of course, there's the deep unconsciousness, which we're seeing all the time, the horrible things that just happened on the East Coast. Oh, forgive me. I don't watch the news, but I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina, or Virginia. People are going to know what I'm talking about, but that's deep unconsciousness, the violence that we see, the war that we're in, a lot of deep unconsciousness. And so we want to bring more consciousness in the world, because when we're conscious, we are able to see if we are moving and acting and navigating our lives in a way that's in alignment with who we truly are, right? And so I think that's actually a really good segue into what we're going to be talking about today. So that's us, Yogi Triathlete. We are here to create a better world, and you guys are a part of it. We couldn't do it without you. So this is a super powerful tribe. This is not a tribe to mess with.
No, we're seeing it daily with our athletes.
I wouldn't want to mess with our athletes.
Or the people that we come in contact with. What happened Friday night when we walked down?
Oh my God, Friday night was
green.
so cool. So one of the things that we do, Clark is the big connector. And so one of the things we do is we walk down to the end of our street. We say, oh, let's just go down with Clark and we'll take a walk. And we never have an agenda. And then Friday night, like in the dark, Clark was being super silly. And this guy was like, can I just pet your dog? He's so awesome. So we ended up talking to these people. And who did they end up being?
He was a performance...
He's in school recreational therapy.
And he said this girl over here, who I think he was helping to train, or they were training together, is a champion jiu-jitsu fighter.
Yeah.
Like world champion.
Talk about nobody to mess with. This girl is 150% muscle.
From Brazil.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have her on the podcast.
Yeah, so just like that, we met these people, and we connected on social media, and we'll see where it takes us. But those are the moments that we have no expectations for. We just take a walk, and the connections just automatically happen. So if you're giving off that energy, if you're giving off the vibe that you want to, that you're open and the universe is there to provide for you, then things start to conspire to make that happen.
Yeah, the trickle effect. And so we're seeing it with our athletes, and we're seeing it with our families too, like the extension of the work that we're doing within ourselves allows us to do the work that we're doing in the world with our athletes and the mindfulness clients that I work with and the students in my yoga class. We're seeing through them that they're now living the example, and through them living the example, their community is starting to change and their families are starting to change. And it's really awesome, you guys. So never underestimate the impact that you're having in the world. Okay, so let's jump in. I don't know what we're going to get to, but let's just see. So let's start with Santa Rosa, BJ. How is your recovery? Like, you're doing 3 Ironmans in 16 weeks, and we've been getting a lot of questions about how you're doing this, how your recovery was, and we've been super busy, so you've been doing a lot of live videos, which is awesome. But how was your recovery coming off of Santa Rosa?
Coming off, I know I had the idea, and this is just an idea or plan, was to take 2 weeks and really just let the body heal and get into some swimming, continue swimming, just nice and easy, and then slowly work in the bike and the run. And then I had this foot sensation, so that's kept the run at bay, which is probably a good thing, to just kind of sit back and focus on race pace specific stuff and let the fitness from that first Ironman carry over. A lot of food recovery, like I've been really focused on getting in what I need in the morning before workouts, and then immediately after workouts being really diligent about refueling my body with smoothies. If you've been seeing my posts lately, I think I've been knocking back a smoothie after every workout, and the recipe I think we posted on Instagram, it's been my go-to the past few weeks. So between nutrition and taking the body down a little bit and workouts down, one of the biggest things has been yoga. I've re-upped my yoga practice, and it's the heated yoga practice. Just getting into that hot studio and not having any strong expectations of, I need to kill this practice, I need to get in there. It's just letting the heat and letting that humidity just work its way through my body, just sweat it out. And yesterday was the first day I've done 2 yoga sessions.
And they were pretty close together.
They're pretty close, separated by a run.
Yeah. So it
was yoga
that morning.
Woke up for yoga, took Jess's 6 a.m. class, 6 to 7. Then we headed home, and I got into a 40 minute run down to the next yoga studio. And Jess met me there, and I practiced there for an hour. So I had 2 hours of hot, steamy yoga, bookending a little bit of a run. And it was sort of a light day. But this week, this is the 4th week out from Santa Rosa, and this is the first week I feel like things are back in flow.
So did you feel at all like you were to put like a worldly label on it because so people can understand, you had some tendinitis on like the lateral side of your underfoot, which was like your peroneus brevis attachment point, and a little bit of your digiti minimi muscle, which is a muscle that controls that little pinky toe, but there's an attachment point in there. And I've had the same exact thing. It's so funny. I've had the same thing and I actually had it for a couple of years, but it's gone now. So in that, like when that cropped up, because that was, well, you were feeling it a little bit before Santa Rosa, and I worked on your foot, and then that was fine. And, you ran hard. That race, you just went hard the whole day. And then coming off it, that like having this physical thing that was slowing you down, but also like the weight of Ironman Wisconsin being closer than you thought. This is so typical of us. Like all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute.
It's not 10 weeks.
It's not 10 weeks. It's like
6 weeks,
5 weeks or something. Did you have moments where you like wanted your circumstances to be different, or you wanted to be, did you feel pressure of like, I should be doing more right now?
I had one brief moment of that.
What was it?
One
Describe
brief
it.
moment. I was coming back from a run, I think, an attempted run. And I went off the bike and I went out to the back trails, and I had to come back after a minute because it just was not happening. And it was so brief, and I want to stress it. It was one moment, it was brief. And I can recount in the past where I've had multiple moments that have extended days worrying about whether it's going to heal in time. But I know too much now to go back to those thoughts. I know that based on my fitness, based on how things have progressed, I just know everything. Like I'm going to be fine come race day. And I just continue to move forward. And what I've done is, do the things you can control. So drink turmeric tea, cut down the inflammation in the foot. Get on the nano foot roller, which from Trigger Point, which has been a savior for me these past few days or past few weeks. Icing and heating and heating it up. Getting in the pool and swimming more, maybe not so much running. My run volume has been super low leading into an Ironman. That's okay. I've done this before. I understand that not one workout, not 1 week's workout, not 6 weeks workout is going to affect what happens on race day if you're not mentally focused and positive that you're going to be there, showing up and be fine. Like going down that rabbit's hole of what if and this is pain, this sucks. Going down that hole is not doing anyone good, and it's just wasting energy. I need all the energy I can moving me forward to get to Wisconsin on race day.
Yeah. And so, it's a big waste of time. And it's super low vibe to get stuck in that.
But it's easy. It's easy.
It's so available.
It's easy. It was there at many chances. So when you asked me, it was there, but I've only given it attention for a brief moment once.
And then the thing that I always used to say to my clients, and I say to my athletes now that I work with meditation and stuff like that, when something is preventing them from, training, the physiological thing that's happening is that when you go down that rabbit's hole and like, oh my God, what if, and you start getting stressed, you have a physiological reaction. Your sympathetic nervous system is heightened, which is your survival mechanism, which is your fight or flight or freeze, and it creates a stress response in your body. And when you have a stress response in your body, your immune system is suppressed and your body starts to prioritize. And the last thing that your body is going to prioritize in that is a little spot on your foot. So the stress in your body and the reaction that you're having in your nervous system is going to slow your healing. It's going to slow your healing. So any negative thought that you have, any stress that you're going to indulge, it doesn't mean that that stress isn't going to come in, but you've got a choice. You've got a choice in that moment to feed it or not feed it. And when you feed it, it's like self-sabotage at its best.
Absolutely.
When you feed it, you slow everything down. And you also compromise your success on race day. So physiologically, it's just silly to go down that road. And believe me, I understand that sometimes it's just too much and it pins you down. And so for you, it pins you down for a moment.
Right, a moment, a brief
but
moment.
in the past, it
would have consumed me.
Yeah. And that's not to say that
it won't again.
Yeah, it won't again. You know?
I have the tools. I feel like I have the tools
Yeah.
now to work through it. And today's workout was perfect example of that. Like
Yeah.
today.
So before I want to talk about
Yeah.
today's workout, before you go into it, one thing I want to say to people is, you know, we talk about the warrior path and all of this, and I was actually talking to a meditation client or student yesterday, and we were talking about how, you know, you go on this path and the challenges don't get smaller, they get bigger. Like, it's in direct relationship to the consciousness that you're now living in, and like you're choosing more consciousness and you're choosing more presence. And so you have to have the balance so that the universe says, oh, look at all this light and consciousness and strength. Okay, well, how we have to match that and balance that out is these challenges they're going to be bigger and they're going to come in hard. And so it's not like things get easier. They don't, but you're more equipped. Everything is relative to where you are. And so, yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that. But
it's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly no reason to avoid the path, because either you do it in this lifetime or you do it in another lifetime. You know, I might as well get started. I want to do as much work as I possibly can in this lifetime, because I don't want to come back. Like, my goal in this life is to get to a point where I can say, all right, like intuitively know, like my work here is done and I can pull myself out of the body. That's how I'm going to go. That's my plan.
I like that plan.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I have the solution now. It's not like I have the magic gold key and, okay, great, I got through that moment. You know,
No.
It's like a continually growing process.
It's almost like you want to say like, oh, thank you. That was kind of like an easy one. It was just a moment.
Right.
Thank you so much. Knowing that there's something bigger coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about today's workout. You did a live video, which I couldn't even wait to watch on the way home from the pool. So I was watching it in the parking lot of the pool, even though we already got the data warning on our phone. Did you see that?
No, I did.
Yeah, but we're only at 50%, so we're good.
We got a few more. 2
yeah,
weeks.
11 days.
Yeah.
We're fine.
We'll make it.
So talk about your workout today, because I have a question about it.
Yeah, today's workout, the plan was to go out and ride for 3 to 4 hours at a steady pace, nothing crazy. MAF pace is what I like to call it. And if you listen to Lucha's podcast, you can get
Oh my God, the podcast is so good.
dive into MAF.
That's another really good one.
A really good one. It was 2 podcasts ago. And it was just, you know, Z2, just a chatting pace for 3 or 4 hours, and then come home and run off the bike at race pace. And, you know, I took yesterday, like I said, sort of light, but this week has been the week where things have clicked. So Tuesday and Thursday I had really, really solid swims and really solid bikes. And actually Tuesday night I did the run group back here and pushed myself beyond what I wanted to
That's
do.
the speed workout.
The speed
And you
workout.
always seem to show up when they're doing the mile repeats.
Always.
Because it's always different every week.
Every week, but it's made up of 3 miles. So today's workout, I got out and joined the Endurance House crew. They leave their place in Oceanside. It's a shop that I actually teach yoga at Monday and Thursday nights at 6 p.m. So if
And
you're
there's going to
in
be
the area,
more of that in the future.
please join us.
If you are an athlete and you're not practicing yoga, you are missing a serious chunk of your potential.
There were 2 things I was thinking about on the bike ride today that I could, if someone said if you had 2 things to tell a triathlete, like
Ooh,
years
I like
ago,
this.
like
Years
when you're
ago.
coming up,
What about right now?
one, swim, get in the pool, swim, and do more yoga. I wish I had done yoga sooner, and I wish I had done swimming more consistently. And those two things you can do for the rest of your life. They transcend the sport of triathlon. So I rode with the group and we went out east and I wanted to do this ride. I wanted to check out this road and it seemed like they were doing that today. So we went out to West Lilac, and the Circle K loop, I think they called it. And it was about 50 something miles it ended up being, but there was, when you bike with a group, there's the fast group, there's the medium group, and then there's the beginner group. And there's always that opportunity to jet and go with the leaders. Even though your ride or your workout or your coach says to stick here, there's something about being in a group that you just got to go. But I've learned over the years that I like to stick to the plan, and it benefits me in the end. But if there is an opportunity in the grand scheme of things to go for it, you give it a go. And so we turned onto West Lilac, and Matt, the owner of Endurance House, was like, "Oh, this is a Strava route, like this 5-mile stretch up to the stop sign." And I was like, "Yeah." But it was a really good gradual climb, and I know Wisconsin has climbs, so I just got into my TT position and I just pedaled through. I didn't go I didn't go into the hard zone. But I was pushing it, I was in aero, I'm giving it a good go. And there was Matt and this other guy, Chris, I think his name was, ahead of me. And it was in that moment, that 5-mile stretch was what I needed to do. And I did it. And I got to the top, and then we all regrouped, and then we rode the rest, pretty chill all the way back into town.
What was the grade of it? It sounds yummy.
It's rolling. It's a little bit rolling, but it's got some steady climbing. I don't know what the grade is, maybe 3-4%, and then maybe up to like 7% at one point.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just being an aero because that's built some specific strength.
Yeah.
On the TT bike. But it was just great to be out there and cycling with them. So I got done with the ride and got home, and I'm like, I don't know like how I feel about this run. And I just talked to one of my athletes too, and she was feeling the same thing when she got off the bike. And I hear this a lot. And
I hear it a lot from you when you come home from your run and you're like, you've got this
from my ride.
Yeah, from your ride.
Yeah.
You've got this little like, well, I don't know. I mean, I might be, it might be an exaggeration of actual events, but like, I'm always like, get your ass in your shoes, put your shoes on your ass and get out.
Yeah. So I did. I got out, and I just my goal was to hit 720 to 730 pace, which is what my goal is for race day. And I started out, and it just sort of like came to me. And then after a mile, it started to get a little bit better. And then gradually it was just kicking into, I'm a runner. Like, I'm a runner. This is what I do off the bike, and these are the paces I hit. And so I went out and did my 3-mile lap, came home, and then I remembered I wanted to do some mile repeats. I wanted to try this workout where I did like 6 1K repeats. So I went back out to the trail with a water bottle, but I stuck with the same pace, so 7:30 out to the start of the trail. And this is the rail trail behind our place. It runs alongside the train tracks. And I hit the 6 1Ks with a minute rest in between at my 7:15, 7:20 pace. Just banging it out. And it got easier and easier as I was doing these repeats. And it just reinforces the point that you may not feel good coming off the bike, but just start making those first steps. Just start running. Just start working into it. Things will change. The way that I coach, at least, and the way that the coaches I've worked with, things change pretty quickly. Like, you just get over that little hump, and then that's the point where everything starts to kick in. And we were talking about this with the Alchemist, which we both are listening to. Mm-hmm. And it's where most people give up, is that point. That point where, like today, I wouldn't have left the house. Or today, I was running the first half mile and I wasn't feeling good and I headed home. Like, those...
That would have been such a waste.
That's where most people quit.
Well,
but that is where the biggest reward or the biggest discovery and experience can happen, just getting past that.
So if you think of life as a yoga class, which really you should, because this is a school that we live on. This earth is a school. And so there's this thing that's commonly said in yoga, and you may have heard it if you've been to class, like, the moment you want to get out of the pose is where it begins. Like the moment you want it, it's almost like what's coming into my mind now is like women who give birth, like that moment where they're just like, I can't. And it's like a couple more pushes and then it happens, you know? Like the moment you want to say like, okay, that's good enough, or I've done enough, or this is uncomfortable. The moment that you start to feel those things is the moment where you have to stand up and fight.
Stand up and fight. Mm-hmm. Show up. Because
it's the battle. It's the battle against the mind, you know? And you know, make your life a meditation. That doesn't mean you wear robes and you sit in a cave and you have, you know, candles burning all around you all the time. That doesn't mean that at all. It's make your life a meditation. Like, be conscious of what's coming at you and how you're rising up to those occasions. How are you being, frankly, are you being a coward? Are you being like a coward in those moments and saying like, oh, it's too much, I can't do it. When really, if you just take a breath and you realize like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I think I was saying that in yoga yesterday. Like, you know, it's a hot ass room and I don't tend to teach a easy class, and it was really challenging, but I don't think that those people show up to have an easy class. And, you know, it's like, just watch the mind. Like it's we're breathing and we're moving the body. Like you were breathing and moving the body. It's not that big of a deal.
And I love that. Like, that's where they want to show up and have the challenging class. But when they're in there, it's like, they don't want the challenging class.
Yeah.
Like, do you really want this? Like,
yeah.
And what were you talking about with the Bhagavad Gita? Like, he's like, you got to stand up and fight.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you want to, is this what you want? This is what you want.
Yeah, this is kind of how the Bhagavad Gita starts. And I see this with people who say like, yeah, I want to be more mindful. I want to meditate. And this is how the Bhagavad Gita starts. Arjuna says like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight. And Krishna, who's like the divine consciousness, says, all right, you want to fight? I'm going to show you what you're going to be fighting. And he sees what he's going to be fighting, which is his uncle and his cousins and all of this, which represents like our minds essentially, and all these thoughts that we're attached to about who we think we are and all of that. And that's what you have to battle. You have to battle who you think you are in this world.
Yeah, they're not you. They're your cousins. It's like, it's so close. They're not you. They're just like right. One step.
And so I hear that with people. They say, oh, I want to do meditation with you and I want to do mindfulness. I'm like, okay, great. This is what it takes. Okay. And then some people are like, they rise up and they're in it and they're just like more. Keep giving it to me. And that's how I am as a meditation student. More. Keep laying it on. I am ready for it. I am here to stand up and fight. And then some people just fall away. And it's the same thing with like Ironman and even half Ironman. Like, you can watch those inspirational videos on YouTube and be like, I'm going to sign up. But the fact is like, signing up that's nothing. Like, you got to stand up and fight. And you have to do those workouts. And when you're feeling sorry for yourself, that's your battle of the mind. That's you. That's Krishna showing you this is what you're fighting. You're fighting your own self-doubt. You're fighting your belief systems of what you think you can or cannot do. And this is what, and so then it goes on, right? The story is such a good story. The story goes on, but then there's this one point where Arjun is just like, I can't do it. Like, I can't do it. And he's like laying on the ground of the chariot. And he's like, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Not going to do it. I'm not going to fight. And Krishna gets really stern with him. And he says, you know, this cowardness does not, what does he say? He says, it does not, basically it's not, it does not make you look good. You know, like it does not, it's getting the best of you. It's not who you are, right? It's not, you're being a coward. And if that's what you want to be, then stay where you are and don't even go on this journey. But I know that that's not who you are. So you must stand up and fight. And this is the warrior, right? This is the warrior. You always are ready for battle, but you're never a threat to your community. That's what it is.
This book is so good. So if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita, you need to. I put it off for so long. So long.
So good.
It's so good. So I highly recommend this book. Check it out.
And don't worry about like understanding the whole thing. None of that matters. It's a very divine tail that you'll pull away exactly what you're supposed to pull away. And that could be one phrase. That could be one phrase that you pull away from reading this entire book. But then you go back, then you keep doing your work and you go back and you read it again. And then you're going to pull something else away. And it's like every time I read it, it's like it's been completely rewritten. Because it always has a totally different meaning.
This all speaks to...
How did we get here?
I don't know, but let me finish this.
Okay.
This gets to our being awake and ready, and always be ready. So be ready for battle. Like always be ready, right? Mm-hmm. And one more experience today where I swam after my bike and run, and I'm in the pool. So this is after the big workout. Like I'm in the pool and I had to do these sets, 7 100s, and 50 fast, 50 takeout pace, 50 you cruise into 80% effort. So you're not like coming down. You're like, it's pretty challenging. And you're doing these strong. And I'm in the pool that I've had challenges with lately. This pool that's seemingly not fast, according to me.
I
right?
love how you say, like, you go to the other pool and you're like, it's such a great workout.
I'm such a better swimmer in the other pool.
And it's like, why? Why are you such a better swimmer?
It's a story that I have.
Because your times are faster.
Right.
And it's a yard pool as opposed to a meter pool.
Yeah.
And it is a slow pool. I don't know why. It's like the fat mirrors. Right? Like there's like the skinny mirrors and then there's the fat mirrors. Like this is the slow pool.
Where were we? At an
we were
Airbnb or somewhere. We're like
recently.
I know where we were.
And I was like, look at my legs in this mirror.
We were in St. George, Utah.
Oh yeah,
You're like, don't go in the bathroom mirror. The mirror out here. I was like, this is the good one.
This is the mirror that like I am seeing the legs that I always wanted to have in this mirror. Right. And it was It was a total illusion.
Yeah. So the swim, I had 7 of these, and I ended up doing 3 of them. And my mind is like, I've already done all. This is the stuff that I'm working on. So these are the moments. This is what I talk about being awake and ready. So these are the moments that you need to do the work. I had already done 3 of them, and my mind is calculating like, okay, you've already done all this work today. You have an Ironman in 2 weeks. Like 3 is good. 3 is good enough. And I kept looking at my watch after each set, and I was getting slowly faster by 1 or 2 seconds. And I'm like, the data, so this is great. The data is not telling me I'm getting slower. So why do I need to stop? So here's where I broke it down. I just started to do 1 more. So I did 4 and time came in the same. Then I did 1 more and I got a little bit faster. And I did the 6th one and I went 1 second slower. And then I came back and I did the last one the fastest. And it's in those moments between number 3 and 4, as an example, like right there is where I feel being awake and ready. I can now see like my thought process of what I've done in the past to what is truly happening in the moment. In that moment, I had plenty of energy, plenty of gusto to finish these sets. But in my mind and in the story, it wanted to really like rehash it and be like, oh no, you don't have to do it. Like you don't have to do the rest of them. Like you've already done enough today. Like give yourself a break. Like back off. And those are the moments where I feel
that's where the yoga begins. Like that's where your training today began.
Yes. In that moment is where it happened. And I know I'm relating this all to training, but I would in the past I would go through these workouts and I would log the miles and log my book, and that's great. But I have taken so much from today as a journey of this self-discovery. And that's what matters. That is what is going to carry me through Ironman number 2 and Ironman number 3, and then the Ironman beyond that. Mm-hmm. And this is how our athletes are starting to tap into their mental power, their ability to
their inner badass.
Yeah, their inner badass to transcend any condition that happens, whether it's rain, wind, a mechanical issue, some guy cut him off, an accident or a lack of nutrition, like whatever it is, the pool closed. It doesn't matter what it is. They have the power and the tools.
They have the tools. That's the most important thing.
To move beyond it. And that's what we do with our athletes.
Piece. That's the missing piece that I see in so many training regimens is like this mental toughness and everything comes from just going out and, experiencing the hard workouts. And yeah, there's some mental toughness that's just gonna come, but like are people really getting the mindfulness tools? Like what do you do in that moment? How do you direct your awareness? And in my experience with working with different coaches and in different training plans, and I've run the gamut with that, and I've just never had anyone tell me the how. And that's, I think, my life's journey is teaching the how. Teaching the how is so big for me, the how and the why. Why should I even be doing it? So I know where we started with this, and I want to go back to it, is that you went back out and you did the 1K repeats.
Right.
Yeah. So you did those 1K repeats, and you were using your watch for the first couple.
Oh, yeah. So this is key. This has been a really productive day.
You're you're fired up right now. I don't even think you got a nap today. Oh, a little bit of a nap.
A little bit of a nap.
What are you doing,
6 1K repeats on 1 minute rest at 7:20 to 7:30
And this was after
pace.
you did like the first
three, almost 4 miles, because I ran back out there at 7:20 pace. And I got out there, and the first 4, I'm looking at my watch to check in and make sure I'm not going too fast, because I can guarantee you, anytime I give a workout like this, or you're out to run a certain pace, you always go faster. So the watch was there to keep me in check, and I was banging off the 4 repeats. And then the last 2 is where you really tap into the feel of the run. So you shut off the watch. You don't look at the watch. You do 2 more repeats, and you go based off of feel. And it really gets you in the moment. It gets you in every step. It gets you in your breath. I was thinking about, what was my breath like on those previous 4? What is my breath like now? What is my foot strike like?
We talked about that with Lucho too, like the breath, like knowing your Z2 breath, your Z3 breath, your Z4 breath, your Z5 breath.
Yeah. And
from that breath, you can nail your heart rate, you can nail your pace. Like the breath is so important to connect with.
It's so huge. And so the first 4 was around 4:32-ish average pace. And so,
which translates to what per mile?
Like a 7:15, 7:20.
So that was too fast?
It was rough. It was around there. I wanted to bounce around that 7 to 7:30 range. Mm-hmm. But each of the first 4 repeats were 7:30, 7:31, 7:32, 7:32. And then the last 2, where I was not looking at the watch. The first one was a 7:28, so of course, too fast, but by 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. And then I took that knowledge and experience from that repeat and applied it to the next repeat and took it out even slower. And I came in at 7:32 without looking at the watch. So to me, that makes this workout super beneficial, because I've achieved the goal of hitting the paces that I want to hit, but I've also achieved awareness of where I am physically and mentally, breathing wise, fitness wise. I know where I am right now, 2 weeks out from an Ironman.
And how did that pace feel to you today?
Comfortable, really comfortable.
That would not feel comfortable to me.
Really comfortable. and then being in the moment, after I finished that last one, I just wanted to get home. So I was like, let's run hard home and see what we can do. Mm-hmm. Don't look at the watch. And I got home, and that last, I think it's like 0.7 miles roughly, I did in under 7-minute pace. So it was a solid day off the bike, but really the point here is that I'm really in tune with how my body is, and I've recovered well, and I'm 2 weeks out from an Ironman. I feel like my fitness and mental state is in a good spot.
So my question is, this workout today, and you've been training with some athletes, and when you go back east, you train with some you always try and train with your athletes as much as possible. A workout like today, and knowing like the why behind that workout, what would be, based on your experience with training with your athletes, or even training with athletes who are not your athletes, what do you see as like the biggest mistakes that athletes are making on, like, how could they sabotage a workout like today?
Oh, perfect example is I was feeling good. So why wouldn't I go faster? Why wouldn't I go faster? I feel great. I'm supposed to feel great.
Right.
I've been putting in a lot of work, fitness. I have a lot of fitness. But the point of the workout, timed at this point in training, is not to run fast.
It's not to empty your tank right now.
It's not. This is not the point of the workout. And I think that's where athletes go. They feel good, and therefore they go. Don't get me wrong. There is a time when I'll give in a workout, or you're feeling good, and the time is right to push it. And I'll say that because I get the feeling from their notes and our feedback or phone calls. I understand where they are physically, mentally, and it's okay to push it a little bit. But for most cases, follow the plan. Like, the plan has a vision. The plan is there for a purpose. And on the bike ride today, you get in a group ride and you see that guy go off in the front. You want to go with them, right? You want to go. That's the tendency.
Yeah, but what is that?
That's the ego.
Yeah.
I was talking about it with a guy on the bike ride. He's like, oh, that's just my ego. I'm like, yes. What are you supposed to do today? Oh, you're supposed to bike this pace for this long. And you're not supposed to do a run after, so don't do that. Like, there is a purpose to this.
Right. And I know what that quote was from the Bhagavad Gita. He was saying, like, that cowardness does not become you. Like, being in the ego like that and sabotaging your training by going too hard and emptying the tank, that does not become you as a successful athlete. It's very short-lived. It's like going out and eating like that ice cream cone or something like that, or having that meal that's not that healthy for you. It's a very short-lived satisfaction, but the toll that it takes is much greater in the end. And as an athlete that wants to be successful and to hit your goals, like, moments of cowardness like that, which is really what it is, if you look at it, to succumb to the negative ego in that way, does not become you.
No. And when you move into that effort or whatever it is, you're moving into a different phase of the workout. Like, you're moving into a different benefit, or not benefit, like based on everything you've done. So
cool.
Yeah, I think that's
so you're 2 weeks out as of tomorrow.
2 weeks of tomorrow,
and you're going all by yourself. You've
leave.
threatened to do this for some years now, and now you get to do it. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited. I'm really.
Are you going to bring any
excited
Yogi Triathlete event or anything to Ironman Wisconsin?
I'm working on that. So hopefully we're going to get some yoga going in the Ironman Village Thursday and Friday. It's a Sunday race, so hopefully Thursday and Friday we'll get some yoga in. But I'm arriving on Wednesday, and I'm putting this out there to everybody. Just connect with me, Yogi Triathlete, and I'd love to meet up with you for anything, for conversation, for lunch.
Cool. And we want lots of live videos for your Bachelor Ironman. I think it's going to be awesome.
I think it's going to be great, yeah.
All right. What else do we want to talk about?
So you just got back.
Oh, yeah. I was back east.
Where were you?
I was back east. I was on Cape Cod. And there was a lot of people that I didn't see. And it doesn't mean that I don't love you. It's just, it's kind of like, what's the point of the workout? Like, the point of the trip was to immerse myself in my family, to be in that unit and to serve. Like, I really felt like I just wanted to be there and serve them in the way that I can.
And how'd that go?
It was great. It's family. So it's like, there's so many different dynamics going on, and the five of us. So I have a brother and a sister, and then of course my parents are still married and still alive. It's so
still
wonderful.
In the same house.
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm still in the same house, and I slept in my twin bed with the heart stenciling, and my sister flew in from Arizona, so both of us took a red eye out, and we landed within minutes of each other, and that was like the way to go, man. Hop on a 9:20 flight out of San Diego, woke up in Boston, and my mom got us like a limo on the way home. So we had a car service pick us up, take us to the Cape, took a big nap. And I just wanted to be in service of them, right? So I've done a lot of work on myself over these years to heal these things that were unhealed within me that symptomatically came out as judgment, impatience, selfish will, selfish desire, things like that really used to make up the person that I was in this world. And now I've seen that by living this example of like that peaceful warrior, really, really strong woman who is vulnerable in this world to heal those imperfections of my life and to to be willing to be wrong and to love outwardly and to give freely. Living that example, I've seen so many changes within my family.
What does it take to be okay with being wrong? Like, what does it take?
Oh my God.
What does it take you?
Okay, so when I really started to learn about being wrong was in my yoga training. And I remember that I wrote a blog post on this. I'll put it in the show notes, but it was like the first day of my yoga training. And Philip, who was our teacher, our mentor, and he said that, the highest state of intelligence is to say, I don't know. And I was like, What? I am in the wrong place. Like, who are these losers? To say that you're wrong means to say that you don't know means that you don't know. Like, that's insane. Like, what kind of weakness are we trying to show here?
Yeah, I always think about interviews, like when they ask you something and you say, if you were to say, I don't know, they would look at you like, whoa.
Yeah, like, oh my God, she doesn't know. I thought she was supposed to be an expert. So bless my parents. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And through the way that I translated the way that I was brought up was like, you get really smart and you become an expert on subjects. And then you get the last word. And this is how I was... I like to describe it as like I was somebody who really enjoyed verbal jousting, right? Like I would get into verbal battles and I wouldn't give in. And you're laughing at me. And I would always have the last laugh, even if...
The last word.
Even if... Oh, like God, the last laugh, the last word, everything. It didn't matter what I was doing to the other person. And especially even if I knew I was wrong, I would fight to the death until I convinced that other person that I was right. So when I heard that in yoga training, I was like, oh my God. And so I stuck with it and my whole world got turned upside down that week. And in order to be wrong, and we talked about this with Merrick in last week's podcast, you have to be vulnerable. Like you have to be, it's a vulnerability to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer. And but maybe I could find out, or maybe we could find somebody who does know the answer, and then we could get the answer, and then we could figure out if that perspective aligns with our perspectives. And the ability to cultivate the skill to say I don't know, or to admit when you're wrong, has really allowed me to be such a skillful teacher. It really has, because
why?
Because it. Look at you turning the why table on me.
Well, this is good. This is the heart. This is the deep stuff. Like this is how you become the person you are today.
Yeah, I think because it just shows that. Well, number one, it's like I'm not an expert. Like I highly discourage being an expert, because when you're an expert, you stop learning, and so being a beginner. And so being a sponge to always learn. It doesn't matter that I've done, multiple Ironman. Like that doesn't mean that the next one I do, I'm not guaranteed to finish it, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen. Like, and also that you're relatable to people, that I think it's more of a connection. I think this idea of like we know it all, and this pressure to be a certain way and feel a certain way and look a certain way and dress a certain way and live up to this role is it separates us. It's a disconnect. And so I want connection. I want to connect with my students, and like I walk into my classes and many times I'll just be like, all right, I have no idea what we're going to do. Let's just see how this thing shakes down. And there's no way, like I've always been a public speaker, like since I was in 8th grade, and I stood in front of the House of Representatives and spoke, to hundreds of people at the State House in Boston. Like being in front of the microphone and being in front of a bunch of people, like that is what I was born to do. And hopefully I hope that in this life I get to do that more and more and more and speak to thousands of people, because I love that. There's nothing more that I love. But I would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and remember and memorize every single word and deliver it exactly as the way that I rehearsed it. And I look back at that and I think that was such, I think when I was in 8th grade, maybe that was something that, might have been a necessity. But even like, when I would present, when I was a professional, like in my 20s, I would always rehearse, or if I was going into conflict, if I was going to fight with someone, I would rehearse. I knew exactly what I was going to say, and I was going to say every single word. And I think that that's such a limiter, because what that does is it doesn't allow the present moment to be available to you for the pure intelligence and the wisdom to come through you, which is how we run this podcast, the one that we're recording right now. We had an idea of what we were going to talk about, but the words that are coming out of my mouth right now are coming through presence, like they're moving through me. And so tapping into that divine intelligence as opposed to the human intellect, two very, very different things. Because when you're tapping into the divine intelligence, which is really what we train our athletes to tap into when we train them to be in a flow state in their racing and their training, if they're open to that. Not all of them they're open to it, but they're open to it to their level. And the ones that are really open to it, oh my God, they're just thriving.
Flourishing.
Oh my God,
yes.
They're crazy thriving. And the ones that are not, we see their limiters. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong or they're in the wrong place. It's just they're exactly where they need to be for their level. It's that divine intelligence where there's nothing to learn. Like, we come into this world, there's nothing to learn. We already have it all. But we get into this worldly way and we think we got to go to school and we got to study and we got to memorize and we got to be the best and we have to be an expert and we have to have a field and we have to have like a field of specialty, and then we have to like pursue that and all of that, and we have to know everything. And the thing is that we don't have to know everything. And once we feel like we do know everything, we stop and we limit ourselves.
Right. That's why the beginner's mind.
The
Always
beginner's
having the
mind
beginner's
is huge.
mind.
The beginner's mind is huge, that every moment is a new moment, that there's never a moment that's been like a moment before. Everything is changing. We're changing. The world is changing, right? Everything is always changing. So if we think that we're an expert in something in a world that's always changing,
we're closing off.
Well, we're closing off, but we become continuingly irrelevant. Because there is divine intelligence that is coming through, and we're missing it.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so you're back home with your family.
So I'm back home with the family and my
that gives us some
divine
background.
intelligence. No, but what I've seen is, I've seen incredible changes in my family. My mother is now meditating. She's vegan. My dad's pretty much vegan because he's super old school. Now he's an expert. He's awesome.
And why is he vegan?
Because my mother makes the food. And so he's not going to get up and make his own dinner. And so she creates the food. So he's vegan by default, which is awesome because he has an expert mind. Like, he's a Marine to this day. He's a Marine. But he's awesome because there's something about my relationship with my dad where he listens to me. And even if it's just for a moment, I can see that the information gets in. And my sister, who used to be like hardcore paleo, is pretty much vegan. And actually, I just talked to her today. She was still eating fish and things like that. But even after my visit, because her and my mom were asking me so many questions, she said to me today, like, I've totally been vegan since I came home. And so one of the things I did when I was home and to be in service of my family was I made the food. I packed the cooler for the beach. I created food for my sister and I for the plane, and made dinner. And my dad's raving about tofurkey sausages. And what else did I made Buddha bowls, and he loved his Buddha bowl. And he had nut-based nacho cheese on top, and he couldn't get enough of it. So it was really cool. And I just went back with two things in mind. Number one, with this asking that every morning I would wake up and say, show me how I can serve. And the other thing was to always see each one of them in their perfection, like in their divine perfection. And in moments where it was getting crazy, like everybody was talking at once and they were like kind of arguing about flights for Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh my God, it's August. why are we talking about Thanksgiving?
Not present moment.
Why are we talking
Way
about
in the
this right
future.
now? And I would walk away and I would just say, I'm going to go have some quiet time. And I had my mom's yoga mat. I had it laid out on my floor, and I would go up and I would do 5 minutes of yoga and 5 minutes of meditation. I did that a lot so that I could reset and come back down and see them in their perfection, right? So those were my intentions. And then every time I felt like I was off those intentions, I would reset. So that was nice. My sister and I practiced yoga. We went to the beach, and I just really immersed myself. But one of the things I did get to do was go back to Rhode Island Power Yoga and teach a class, which was it was so unbelievable. And I could feel the energy leading up to it before I even left California. I could feel like the love and the momentum that was already happening. And I kept having to bring myself back to the present moment because I just like so wanted to get there in front of them because I knew it was going to be a packed classroom. And I knew it was going to be so much fun because they know me in my full expression as a yoga teacher, and they accept me in that way.
And when was the last time they saw you?
The last time they saw me was 2 days before we left for our trip.
So it'd been over a year.
It had been over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so to go back, and when I started the class, I was like quivering. I said that I was like, I am shaking right now. And I'm like looking out at like 50, I don't know how many people there was at least 50 people there. And they're like all eyes. Like I'm just looking around the room and I'm just connecting with people. And it was like this really just intense moment of like love and connection. But like I had to be on, like, okay, I have to own this room. Like, all right. So what did I do? Like in that moment, I could have been like, down dog, blah, blah, and been like crazy. But I was like, all right, you guys, we got to drop in. We got to drop in because I need to drop in. So in an instant, it just went silent.
They were hanging on
It was amazing.
the words, I bet, from every word that came from your mouth.
Well, I don't know.
I know. I went back there for a little while, and people were like, "Where's Jess? Where's Jess?"
Well, it was just amazing. Like in a moment, it just went to complete silence. And then in another moment, it just went to 50 people breathing at once. It was like the whole room was like expanding and contracting. And we just had a rockin' experience. It was super fun. I really enjoyed it. And then I found like afterwards, it was kind of hard to like pull out of the parking lot and leave it. But I kept checking in with myself even as I was driving down that so familiar road to get there. Like, is this where I'm supposed to be? You know, are we supposed to be in California? Is this where, like, we left so much behind, and we're exactly where we're supposed to be, BJ. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be out here, and that's what just kept coming, is that we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And what a gift to be able to go back and teach. So, yeah, it was cool to go back and to feel the energy of the Northeast. It's super intense. It's super intense there. A lot of the mind is very closed. I could feel that. I could see it. I could hear it. The conversations at the beach, things like that. But it's a beautiful place. It was a nice visit, and I just threw myself into service. And through that service, I really enjoyed myself and had a really meaningful experience with my family. Yeah, it was cool.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. All right, should we dive into, let's dive into a question.
Yeah. All right.
What else did you want to talk about?
We can talk about your ass kicking.
Oh.
I think that took a big toll on the energy around here.
Yeah.
In our little tiny studio, and in our purpose, in our bigger purpose in this adventure out here in California. So why don't you share what you want or wherever it takes you?
Yeah, I got my ass kicked.
This ass kicking that happened.
I really did. All right. Well, so I got my ass kicked hard.
I think people get that now.
By the universe, really hard. And it's everything we talked about already about, you know, the cowardness and the laying down on the chariot and saying, I can't fight. Like I lived the Bhagavad Gita. I guess it was about a month ago now. It all started in June. And I had a reading with Maria. I had our psychic. I had a reading with her. I just felt like it was time. I had a reading with her. And one of the first things she said to me was, everything is changing for you. And I've been feeling the shift. I've been talking about like, I'm feeling like shift. I don't know what it's going on. Like with triathlon, I've been feeling like the shift and, ultra running. I love it. I've been feeling the shift away. Like I want to focus on the running and I don't know. And like, I can feel the attachment to triathlon. But at the beginning of this reading, she said to me, okay, Jess, so everything is changing for you. Everything. You got it? And I was like, yeah, I got it. She's like, okay, so don't freak out. I said, all right, I won't. She's like, did you hear me? Everything is changing for you, and it's really important that you don't freak out. And I was like, okay, I won't freak out. And I'm like thinking in that moment, like, all right, something's coming. So we went on with the reading, and as always, I pulled away some great clarity. And again, she said, at the end, she said, again, everything is changing for you. Don't freak out as it happens. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to freak out. And then it was about a week or two later, and I had this dream. And I've done a lot of dream analyzation with my meditation teacher, and a lot of my dreams are around water. And water is about the emotions. And so I see these, like, I'll have dreams about like big waves coming in, and normally sometimes these waves, like they're like tidal waves and they crash over me, but I'm super calm. And so that's me knowing that something's coming, but I'm going to be able to ride it just fine because I've done the work and everything. And so this dream was like insane. These waves, like I was looking up and I couldn't even see the top of the wave. And they were coming from all these different angles. They were behind me as one was coming at me. I could see them out of my peripheral vision. And as I was like calm in them, there was a couple times where I couldn't get away and they crashed over me. And I felt myself in this dream getting pulled into the wave and like kind of drowning a little bit. And I told you about the dream after that, but I didn't tell you about the drowning part because everything is energy and words are super powerful. And I knew something was coming, but I didn't want to focus on the drowning part. Like the part where I was suffocating and I couldn't really breathe in the dream because these waves were like waves I had never seen before. So I was like, okay. And then we went to Boulder and had some experiences in Boulder that were intense. Like we were around some intense people and like feeling their energy. And so everything leaves an impression on you. And I kind of felt like I had a little bit of residue on me. And then we came back, and it was shortly after we came back, and I woke up. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember this because I had a session with my meditation teacher that morning. It was a Tuesday morning, and I woke up early. And I woke up because I woke up in a panic. Like I felt like my entire chest was about to explode. And it was like, that's what woke me up. Just this unbelievable, fearful panic. And I don't even know if I told you this part of it. And here you are sleeping so soundly and peacefully next to me. But what happened next was, it was like anger, and it was all directed at you. And all of a sudden in my mind, it was like I had this whole list, BJ, of all the things you hadn't done and all the things you were supposed to do. And I saw this, okay, so I could see it happening, and I was like, whoa, because I'm in the gap, and I can see it. And I'm like, whoa, check this out. Like, this is intense. Like, look at this, like, energy coming into me, and now I'm trying to deny that it's mine, and I'm trying to project it onto BJ. So what did I do? I laid in bed, and I did some mantras to heal that energy between you and I. And here you are just like sleeping, and Clark's sleeping, and I'm like in this total panic. And I actually got up and I meditated. And then I went and taught yoga. But it was like still with me. It was still with me. But it was starting to subside. And then I had a session with my meditation teacher that morning. And he said, how are things going? And I was like, oh, it's good, but I'm kind of riding some waves. And he said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I woke up in this panic. And I explained to him what happened. And then all of a sudden it just came back. And I started crying. We started talking, and our conversation got heated. And the way that he was still haven't quite understood fully what happened between he and I. I believe that he had to stand up and fight and be and really be stern with me. And that's really what happened to wake me up, to really smack me across the face. But essentially I came out of that conversation with him like, oh my God, like I am pissed at him. I'm pissed that we're out here. I'm pissed that we got rid of everything we owned and we went on that trip, and like, what are we doing? And everything I did was wrong. And what is happening, and I'm not teaching enough yoga, and why isn't this coming? And maybe yogi triathletes not supposed, like I started to question everything, but I started to question it in a very negative way. Like everything was wrong. And what happened from that was that the intensity just got more and more and more, and I started to feel really, really dark. And so that day I took walks and I just kept crying. And what I was identifying, it was so haunting, but it was a really familiar darkness. And it was a darkness that I felt earlier on in my life when I was like a teenager and really in a state of desperation in my life and not wanting to be on the earth anymore, and feeling that, like, oh my God, 0 to like 100 I went. And I remember walking along the rail trail just with my sunglasses and a hat on and just being like sobbing. You were gone for the day. And I was just like, all right, this is going to be my day. I've got to move this energy. And so this is what's happening, right? Like I'm sobbing. I am like panicked. I am fearful. I am angry. Like all of this stuff is happening, and it came out of nowhere. But there was still a part of me that could see it. And even though it was getting worse and I felt like I was having trouble breathing, I was just practicing being calm. Like you have to practice being calm in the face of something like this, or the face of any kind of intensity, in the face of any kind of negativity, in the face of any kind of tragedy. You have to remain calm. This is how we get out of it. It was getting harder and harder to remain calm, but there was still like this little bit of light within me that I was so in touch with. And it was the tiniest little bit of light. And I knew that like, if I could just keep that light, it didn't matter how dim it was, but if I could just keep that light and see that through all of this, that I was going to be okay. Like that all of the work I had done up until now was to keep that little glimmer of light alive and connected with that. And so it went on into the next day, and my meditation teacher was so awesome. He was like, let's talk I'm here for you. Like, let's talk every day. Text me, whatever. Like, I'll come down, like whatever you need. Let's get through this. I'm still kind of pissed at him though, because he's making me question everything. So I guess long story short, I had another session with him and it got super heated. It got really heated. Like he was yelling at me because I was falling deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness. Like I didn't like, and I think I even came home to you, BJ, after a walk, and I just said, and you said, how are you doing? And I was just sobbing. And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, that's how I felt. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be on this earth anymore. That's how I felt. Like, that's how desperate it was. And within that, I still had that little bit of light. Like, I could still see it. I could still separate myself just a tiny bit to see. And there was still a voice in my head saying, none of this is mine. Don't attach to this. Like, don't feed this. Even though there was a part of me that was feeding it, like there was still that voice saying, don't feed it. You're stronger than this. And so I have this other session with meditator Bob, and he is like getting super stern with me because he can see me, in the weeks following, we've had talks about it. And he said, I could see you falling into a really dark depression. And like, I agree with that, because nobody is like feeling good when they say, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, that's insane. I don't want to be here anymore. That's crazy. But that's how it was suffocating me. I felt like I was being pinned down by the darkest, most evil energy. And it's out there, right? I don't give it a lot of talk. I don't give it a lot of time. but it's very much there. And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like the further you go down this path, that's going to try and come in. It's going to come in. It's going to try and come in. And it came in. And there was a part of me that let it in, and I couldn't fight against it. Like I was so weak. And there was one point in my conversation with Bob where he just said, if you were going to be like this, I mean, and this is about like 20 decibels higher. If you were going to be like this, then don't come back here. And he just yelled at me, like, don't come back here anymore. And it was like, oh, like that. And then it was like, fuck you. Like, that's really how I felt. Like, in your meditation and everything that I've been following and all this bullshit signs and following my heart, and it's all crap. And it was like the most devastating forest fire we've ever known in our life came through me, and it killed everything. It killed everything. I could barely talk over those days. It was probably about, what do you think? It was like 24, 36 hours?
At least.
It was
long.
like,
it was.
I don't think it was that. Like, I think it was about 36 hours of like really in the darkness. Like, and when I started to come out of it, it was like I had been, everything, this is what happened. And I just want to stress that even in these moments, I knew that I was going to have clarity on the other end. And even in these moments of like sobbing, of being like, I could just jump in front of a train right now. I remember saying, like, it was so hard for me to even talk because I was sobbing so hard at times. I would muster the strength to say, thank you. Like, thank you for this. Because I knew it was going to be an unbelievable experience in healing. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And finding gratitude in the darkest moment, like some of the darkest moments of my life is what I experienced a couple months ago or a month ago.
So you stood up and fight, right? You fought,
like
right?
On my knees.
Right.
I couldn't even stand up.
But you were in that moment, so you could say, otherwise it would just encompass you and continually beat you down and beat you down and beat you down.
Yeah, like it was so suffocating. It was so hard. It was so hard.
But you were able to, what I'm saying is you were able to get into that moment of like, this is it. Like, this is fight or flight. Like,
yeah.
I can take off.
Yeah.
Or I can just fight. Like,
I did. I
and
fought.
You were aware in that moment to embrace it. Yeah.
It was the most evil. It was the most evil of energy.
From my perspective, you were really...
It was a super dark entity that like came into me. And I knew that all the work I had done up until that moment had prepared me to navigate this. So what happened was, as I started to come out of it and I started to be able to be more calm, for like the crying kind of subsided like after a day or so. It took me a little while to like find peace with my meditation teacher. And I knew, like, I had so much clarity. Like, I knew that he had to be strong in that moment and not coddle the evil.
Not feed it.
Feed the evil, not coddle my ego. I was completely wiped out. The one thing he kept saying to me was, when do you teach? You need to teach. You need to teach. And these 2 days I hadn't been teaching. So Tuesday morning when it started, I taught a class, and then I wasn't teaching again until Thursday. So this happened Tuesday, Wednesday. And Wednesday he was saying, you need to teach. Like, you need to get back and teach. And so Thursday morning I taught, and I was completely wiped out. I was completely cleaned of any belief I had. I didn't believe anything. I didn't know what to believe. I was in this state of unknown that I have never been in before in my entire life. Everything I believed, everything I thought I knew was completely gone. And it was like it was a rebirth. It was a total rebirth because I definitely felt like I died. Like, it was a death for sure. And I've had this before, but this was like no other. And I remember teaching that morning. I taught a 6 a.m. class. I was so raw. I was so vulnerable. And so I'm teaching the class, and I just thought to myself, just be present. That's all you have to do. I asked for the words. I said, please, just let the words flow through me. And whatever it is that I have to teach, it will come through. And listen very carefully, Jess. Listen to the words that are coming through, because those are going to be the words of truth. And this is how you're gonna rebuild yourself, by just being completely present and letting something greater than you move through you. Like, let the truth comes through. Yeah, you have no belief systems. Like, remember I kept saying to you, like, I don't know anything. I don't know anything, right? So I guess I had reached the highest state of intelligence.
It's the best place to be.
I know nothing. And I knew it was through this all. I can't stress it enough, you guys. Through it all, I knew that this was going to be one of the greatest experiences of my life. And it was. And there's no way it would have been had I not done the work that I've done leading up to this. So I taught that morning. I was very present, really connected to my body, really connected to my breath, the very instant of breath that I was breathing, the very morsel of life that I was living, and very much in the hub of who I am in that witness. And if you don't understand what that is, I did a YouTube video on it, so I'll put a link in the show notes on like what that witness is. Very much sitting in that hub, and I could hear this voice saying, "You are such a fraud. You are such a fraud." And then this other voice saying, "I am not a fraud. Like, this is truth. Like, what I am speaking is truth." And it was so cool because it was like, okay, so this forest fire came through, devastated everything, right? Completely burned down everything. And what happens in a forest fire? Like, life comes up again, and it's beautiful, and it's super bright green. And I knew that whatever grew out of this devastation was something never to be questioned again. And the things that have grown out of this were really the core principles that I was believing up until this happened, and know now to be more true than ever before. That we are powerful. We are consciousness. We are love. Presence is all there is. The negative ego is crap. Don't buy into it. Separateness. We are not separate. We are one. But the most important thing is that all we have is this moment right now. And in the most intense moments of our life, in the most intense moments of any race, in the most intense moments of any training, in those moments when you want to give up so badly, you connect in with your breath, your body, and be present again. And so the truths that have come out, that have grown up through this devastation, have just really solidified myself in what I know to be true. So not even what I believe, now I just know it to be true. And the other thing that came out of this, which was probably the biggest piece of the ass kicker, was this is my journey. This is my soul journey and nobody else's. And it doesn't matter how many people are supporting me or not supporting me, or the advice I get from people. Like, I got to take all that with a grain of salt, because the only thing that matters is what I feel to be true deep inside myself, for my divine blueprint in this life. And so that's what I took out of it.
That was a big ass kicking.
Was.
Big whoop ass kick.
We've said ass a lot in this podcast. I apologize, but it really was pretty much the most devastating thing that I have experienced
so far.
And shocking that this was still within me. So when we talk about, one of the things that the thing that meditation does that nothing else will do in this world that we know, is that it purifies your soul. So it heals your samskaras. Your samskaras are the dark marks on your soul, the unhealed hurts. And that's the only way to do it, you guys. So you can go out and you can run and you can think that's meditation and all of that. And it is in some sense. But the true healing and the real work is done by sitting and feeling, and in the most intense, darkest moments of your life, getting still and being calm. I did a lot of healing over those couple of days. Like, I completely just checked out, totally surrendered to what was happening, slept, rested my body, got my really got my defenses, not my defenses up in resistance, but my defenses in my my warrior skills and navigated it the best I could, and remembered that within me, like the truth of who I am, I could still see that, no matter how suffocating it was. But I got this just unbelievable lesson in showing me really what is true. And it's not a belief. Maybe it started to move into a belief, even though it was true, but it was like this, it's like something that's hard to put into words. So there's these things called the eternal truths. And so that's what I really feel like I got this like indoctrination into, like I got into this new club, like this new spiritual club, like they welcomed me in, but like I had to like walk over a field of coals while I was being shot at and, attacked the whole time. But then on the other side, I was welcomed into this new level of consciousness of like, yeah, girl, now you know for sure, without question, the eternal truths. And that has taken my ability as a teacher up so many notches. And I think that this is a big part of everything changing for me. So we'll see where it takes me. I'm glad I'm on the other side. I'm glad
too.
Oh my God. So anyway, we've already been going for an hour 25.
Really? All right. Do you want to wrap it up with that question?
I think, let's wrap it up with a question.
Do you want to talk about?
Let's wrap it up with a question.
All right.
I think we need to get to that question. At least one of the questions.
All right, one of the questions. So this comes from David.
Okay.
In Oregon.
Hey, David.
Hi, David. You talk about detachment, and I get it, I think. But where I struggle, and I guess where my question is, can I still have goals, and how do I do this?
Oh my God. I've so been there. Like I remember specifically like writing that in my journal and talking to Meditator Bob about that. Like, can I not have time goals anymore? Like how do I even...
That's the first thing that comes across. Yeah.
How do I even navigate this whole like detachment thing? Does that... Like detachment, what? Like, how do you even do that? So,
so how?
You actually got a really good lesson in detachment. Why don't you just explain like what's your take on it?
So I actually did a video of it on YouTube after Ironman Lake Placid last year in 2016. I was unable. I had all this prep going in. We lived up in Lake Placid for 8 weeks. Like I was able to train on the course, and my pool was the Mirror Lake. Like I was able to swim in there, almost every day on the course. And leading into the race, I got sick the week before and wasn't able to recover in time and wasn't able to race. So I actually did this video. If you get on YouTube, we'll put it in the show notes of what I realized from this experience. Not as intense as Jess's, but I was able to frame things and understand that I was super attached to the outcome of this Ironman. And what I realized is that detachment is something for me that when I remove the time element, because in my opinion, I had to do this race on this day in order to meet my goals and to push me towards my qualification for Kona. Like this is what I was setting myself up to do.
Well, and I think I want to interrupt you for a second because I think what was so super evil about what happened to you is that we were living up there.
Well, we
were living up there for 7 weeks. You were
Right.
training on the course. You were 110% fit. Like this was the rate you were going to qualify, man. Like the stars were aligned. And then out of nowhere, you got your ass kicked.
Yeah, I really
And
did.
I would say it was probably pretty equivalent to the intensity that I felt, but yours was a physical. Physical. Like you were so sick.
I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep anything down. I basically was drinking tea and eating white rice for like a week. But what I learned, and this only came, I think, 2 or 3 days after the race, I went for a little run because as things happen, I was able to physically get out and move again just after the race. And I just realized, like, in a meditation that I was so attached to the outcome. And what if I wasn't attached? What if I was just doing the work to do the work towards my goal without attaching to that end result? And what was coming to me in this meditation was time. And I had this time commitment, like things had to happen in a certain amount of time, the race time, the training leading up to the race date, like everything was time focused. And what if we removed the time? What if I was just doing the work to work towards my goal without having a time frame on it? Like, would the journey change? Absolutely. The journey would be so much more rewarding. And I dug deeper into this in my meditation. I think it was like 2 or 3 meditations. I kept like going further and further in. And I was realizing that was the real key for me, was just the time frame. And when I could remove myself from the end result, whoa, like things just opened up. Opportunities, a new relationship with the sport of triathlon, which has ever evolved in the 13 years I've been doing it, but even more so in the past 3 years. I have had a completely 180 relationship now with triathlon, and it's for the better, and it's a healthy relationship. And it doesn't mean I don't have goals. I still want to qualify. I'm still training hard. I'm still working off a plan. I'm working all towards these things, but I'm detached from the result. And so what does that mean? So I'm working towards it. And same thing I did in Santa Rosa. I'm working to qualify. I'm working to give it my best out there. But when I didn't meet that goal, I didn't dive into a deep hole of negativity and feel bad for myself and like this is never going to happen, and going down a path that just is a point where you're wasting your energy. Like after the race, I was just so happy, like I had this new relationship. Like it was a great race. Like I had a great experience. I learned this, and I learned that.
And you got closer.
And I got closer.
Highest you've ever placed.
Highest I've ever placed. Mm-hmm. But when I'm out there on the race course, I just have this great awareness now, and it's an attitude of gratitude, I guess. It's the PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah, John Joseph.
It's just being grateful that I'm able to physically, mentally be out there and present and be able to push my body on an event that most people will never ever do.
Yeah.
And if you can frame it in a way that you're not attached to that end result in a certain time frame, that gives you the opportunity to seek something different that you can relate to, something that is super in tune with who you are and what you expect. I was expecting to do Lake Placid, and I was expecting to do it in this time. I was expecting to, beat these people, and I was expecting to use my fitness. And what that taught me is I don't expect anymore.
And what do we say about expectations?
Oh, you're just setting yourself up for
They ruin the future. Your expectations ruin the future.
Yeah.
But what you did was you had demand. You were demanding something from the universe, and you cannot demand from the universe.
No.
Don't demand from the universe, right? And this is the attachment, right? We demand a certain time. We demand that we're going to qualify by the time we're 40. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have goals. That doesn't mean that you don't say, I want to qualify for Kona by the time I'm 40. Or, I want to do a sub 12-hour Ironman, or I want to do an Ironman. It doesn't mean that you don't have those goals, but you do the work for the sake of the work, right? So everyone talks about, it's the journey. Well, gut check. Is it really the journey? When that race gets pulled away from you, when you DNF, is it really about the journey? Are you so cool with that?
That's an honest question. Right? Ask yourself. Because I hear it all the time. It's the journey. Yeah. High five.
And that's a wonderful intention to have.
But is it truly about the journey? Like, can it be ripped away from you? Can you train for an Ironman for 16, 20 weeks, for a whole year, and be okay if you don't race on race day?
Most people, I would say no. So when let's start with how you know you're attached. You know you're attached when you suffer. So when you cross the finish line and you're psyched that you finished, but you're disappointed that you didn't have your time, you're suffering. you were attached to your time. So first thing is like knowing what you're attached to, right? When you are trying to get somewhere on time and, you know, you're running late and you hit a traffic jam and now you're pissed. Okay, well, you were attached to getting to that certain place by a certain time, right? There's attachment is everywhere.
It just doesn't have to be sport. It doesn't
Right.
have to be art.
When you peel back that banana that you're so excited to have and it's too ripe or not ripe
or
enough.
an avocado when it's
Yeah, and the avocado, and you open,
Yeah.
you're so excited to have the avocado, and then you're like, oh my god, it's like all brown inside, and like even you scrape off the top level, and it's still brown, and you're disappointed. That's attachment,
right.
You know, that's attachment. You know, that's how you know is when you're suffering on any level, and so. What it is when we say it's about the journey, it's what that really is it's about training, it's about developing, being more skillful in your ability to live in the present moment. That's what it's about. That's where the journey is. It's being in the present moment. And so how do you do that? You do that by putting your awareness on your breath, which is always happening right now, putting your awareness on your body, which is always happening right now, and merging your awareness to the activity at hand. So that could just be like, I'm just standing here and I can feel my feet in my shoes and I can feel my mouth moving as I speak, right? And I'm merging my awareness in with my activity of recording this podcast. And through that, we get flow. Right. And when things become work, there's no work in flow, right? So if things become work, and I say this in my yoga class a lot too, like the moment you feel like you're enduring the class, you're enduring the pose, like I can do this, no flow. And that doesn't mean that flow isn't challenging. Like in those days where I was pinned down by like this evil entity, there were a good amount of those moments. There was definitely some resistance, I have to tell you. Like I'm not going to lie because it was so intense. But there was a lot of flow in that intensity because I completely surrendered to it. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't function. I couldn't like work. I couldn't do my Facebook posts. I just laid in bed or I took a walk and I sobbed and I just completely surrendered to it and said, all right, I'll do what it has to take to let this move through me. So it doesn't mean that flow is always like super easy. It just means that you're not resistant to it. And so, have your goals for sure. It's so important to have your goals. I mean, scientifically, it's been shown that when you visualize yourself and you set those goals and you see yourself succeeding, you have a better chance at success within those goals. But watch the time frame of what you're demanding and understand that maybe you didn't get that time or you didn't reach that goal this time, but
right.
It doesn't mean you're off the path.
Right.
It very much means you're still on your path.
If you continue to move, if you continue to keep your momentum moving forward.
Yeah, but
because that's the point where they would want to stop.
But even if you like resist it, you're still on your path. You're never off your path. People think like, I DNF'd. I'm off my path, or I fell off my path, or you're still on your path. You're completely in charge of how that path is going to go.
But it could be a goat path.
Yeah, where you're just bushwhacking, right? And so for many of us on the warrior path, we're bushwhacking. Things aren't, they're coming with ease in the way that you're not resisting them, that you're staying in flow and you're riding those waves, even if the waves are so big you can't even see the top. But sometimes those waves are going to crash down and you can still be in flow as they're pushing you around. And I think I saw that in that dream where I was drowning a little bit because there were times where I was fighting against it. I didn't want it to be happening. I didn't want to be feeling this resistance or this intensity, but keep the goals for sure and see yourself doing them. And you can have your vision boards, you can have all that stuff. But let me tell you one thing. If you're not doing the inner work, everything that aligns is just going to be by luck. Like you have to do the inner work to fully realize all of your dreams and to fully live like the life that you're capable of living, the one that your highest potential.
And that just encompasses what Yogi Triathlete is about and how we work with our athletes. I really feel that's where the training plan comes in too, because it's not your typical, here's your training plan, now go with it. Like a training plan is liquid. It's always moving. Like this, I have a great big picture, but things move. And if you want to hit up any of our athletes, please connect with me, because they've experienced all of this. And Liz, running on Venti, just did a blog post about how she ran her 3rd Falmouth road race, and she was present in every moment. Like I gave her the intention of being in every foot strike, in every moment, smiling at the crowd, like disconnect from the time and just embrace it. Because there was some, and she says it in her blog post, but there was some animosity towards it. Like she wasn't gung-ho about it. The challenges of getting there, and her husband was sick for the first time, and
he had to go to the ER or something like during the race.
But all these things were happening, and I had her I challenged her to be in the moment, and she was in the moment, and she came out the other side, and she had a wonderful experience. And this is what we do at Yogi Triathlete. Like we put you in the situation, but we give you the tools to be able to experience it fully, to come out and be like, yes, I just handled that, versus you're up shit's creek and you don't know what to do when all these things come flying at you. So really, really connect with yourself and find out what you're attached to. Like, what are these expectations you're attached to? And see if you can detach. See if you can continue to have the goals for whatever it is that you want to achieve, but it's okay if in the end it's not as you expected.
Well, and also sometimes for people like myself, things change. And I still haven't fully realized what all that means. That everything is changing for me. I'm finding it, I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. But sometimes like we hang on really tight to maybe something that we said and a goal that we set, and we get really headstrong about it, but maybe that goal is no longer aligned. So it's about getting really honest with yourself, and goals can change, but definitely keep your goals, feel them in your heart. And if they really feel aligned with who you are, you got to burn those things in there. You got to brand them in so deep. And anything that takes you off the path from reaching those goals, there can be no room for that in your life.
You have to have unwavering faith and belief that what you're committed to is going to happen. It is happening.
Yeah.
And you work and put everything towards that. And
you
do it every day.
Yep.
Don't go into the future of that goal in the far off, distant future. Like, stay in the present moment and do the work every single day.
Yep. I think that's good. And I think we should just close with one little quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which is, you have the right to the action, but you do not have the right to the fruits of that action. So you take the action for the sake of the action, and that's it. It really is about the journey. There is no destination. Don't put time limits on your goals. Feel into your heart. Make sure that they are still aligned with the person you are in this ever-changing world, because your goals can change, and by hanging on too tightly to one may make you shift away from one that's even bigger and greater, and something that you could miss in this life. So stay awake and ready, you guys, and thank you so much for the support of the show. We were going to keep this to an hour, and we're at like an hour 42. So we hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any more questions on anything we talked about, send those questions in. Thank you, everyone who has subscribed to Patreon. We are putting up some exclusive content for you guys. We released one of the recipes of our upcoming cookbook. If you don't know about the cookbook, you're not going to have to wait too much longer. Our goal is to get it out by October 1st. We have the design done, and we're sending it out to some amazing people who are going to review the galley copy for us. This is Adventures in Self-Publishing, so that will be something else that we can speak to anyone who wants to do that in the future. But thank you so much, you guys. Stay awake and ready. You are here for a purpose, and it's every moment it's unfolding for you, as long as you are present to see it happening.